video to do this because I feel it's deserving. I don't know if that's the right word, but I couldn't just post a status update about this. The book's done. I finished it. Orca's Eye is 100%, well, 98% complete. And I say that because I'm going to stay away from it for about a week, and then I'm going to come back with fresh eyes and do any little last tweaks before I can say it's 100%. But I officially finished the writing portion. I officially finished all of the major editing. It's done. It's done. And this feeling is indescribable. I don't even know where to begin, but I wanted to make some kind of acknowledgement video for a lot of different things. First, I want to start with some people that I really want to thank. I even had to write them down so I make sure I don't forget, because there's a lot. It's been 10 years since I started writing this book. In 2007, I took a fiction writing class at Fresno State, and the assignment was to simply write a fiction story, and that's where the inception of this whole thing started. And for 10 long years, every summer, even some winter breaks and spring breaks and Thanksgiving breaks, and even sometime while working, well, not while working, but you get what I'm saying. I've been writing and redoing and editing and rethinking and removing and putting in, and all of these crazy things that have been going on for the last 10 years have led to this moment. It's done. So the first person and the most obvious person that I have to thank, well, maybe not obvious to you, but to me, that's Jeff Peterson. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with you, man. I think it was like 2009, 2010 is when I started to send you my drafts, and oh my gosh, you would come back to me with 30, 40 plus pages of notes and critiques and suggestions. And every time that you sent me this stuff, I'd totally be disheartened because, you know, this is my work. I'm proud of it, and who are you to take a shit all over it? But I appreciate it big time, because I'd always come back around and say, you know what, Jeff was right, and because of you, my story is as good as it could possibly be. I have a lot of crazy cinematic ambitions when it comes to writing, and you always brought me back down to reality and said, you know what, that's not what's best for your characters, because this is about the characters and what they're going through. So you need to get rid of that, get your head out of the clouds, come back down and do what they deserve. And you were always right. So it's almost to a point where you are co-creator of this. You basically are. I mean, you've given so many of these main characters their path, and so much credit is due your way. So to say thank you simply isn't enough, but I will be purchasing you broilers as well as a very, very intimate steak dinner soon. So thank you, Jeff, seriously, for everything. The editor, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Next person I need to thank is Kristen, my wife, for putting up with the countless hours and years of me just locking myself away in the office and avoiding her, basically. There's no other way to describe it, but that's what I've been doing, and she has been very patient and very supportive, and now I'm sure she's excited because now we can actually do stuff during the summer. So thank you, Kristen, for being so patient and supportive. I want to thank Dr. Jones. He was a sociology professor of mine over at Fresno State, and he was the first person to really kind of take the chance on me and read what I had. Back then it was complete garbage. Dr. Jones, thank you for being so polite, because that was crap. But you motivated me to keep going, because I saw, hey, maybe there's some potential here in this story. Even if you were just being polite or not, you made me realize I got to keep going. So thank you. I want to thank Angela. You have been very supportive, and just commenting random things on Facebook and pushing me to keep going. I've been very appreciative of that. Thank you. Johnny, you have been there since day one. You have even read a few versions of the story. All those versions are completely redone now, but still, thank you for your support. And to everybody else who would comment things or send me messages saying keep going, to all my students who keep pushing me to go. Kiana, thank you very much for always keeping me moving along and avoiding procrastination as much as possible. I want to thank you. Andrew Watrous, my English teacher. Without you, none of this would have started, because you made me see how fun it is to write and to express myself creatively. So thank you for being the best English teacher anybody could ask for. And lastly, Josh Bacon. This is a thanks in the future. He's going to read the final version of my book, so I thank you for taking on that task of doing so. Okay, so those were the majority of the people I wanted to thank. If I'm missing anybody, I really apologize. My parents for bringing me life. Without me, there wouldn't be this book. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for always allowing me to, just like Kristen, allowing me to isolate myself and focus on being creative. So thank you, Mom and Dad. The next thing I'd like to talk about is what has inspired me to write this particular story. What stories did I read that made me think and want to write a story of my own? And it all starts with this one right here, The Dark Knight Returns from Frank Miller. I read this in 7th grade, and I was underneath a tree reading it every lunch period for about a week or so. And I've always been a Batman fan since I was about 2 years old, but this one changed my outlook on Batman. And the themes, the politics, the characterization, the hurt that Batman goes through, it spoke to me. And this was kind of the seed that was planted in my head. I want to write a story like this one day. I don't know if I can or will, but this is what made me want to get going. Next, my favorite video game franchise is Metal Gear Solid. These characters and these stories are probably the reason why I'm so ambitious and wanting to be so cinematic with some of the things. So Jeff, this is the reason why you always had to bring me back to reality. But characters with strong emotion and great emotional connections. If I was at all able to accomplish that in Orca's Eye, it's because of Metal Gear Solid. Anytime your eyes swell up, that's because of Metal Gear Solid. So, Snake! Thank you. My favorite book of all time, Lord of the Flies. William Golding is a master at writing, and he has been the inspiration for me to want to establish my own voice. The way he describes scenery, the way he describes internal struggle and detriment, he got it. And I can read this book over and over and over again. And thanks to my job, I read it once a year. So, Lord of the Flies. If you haven't read it, you're dumb. So, there you go. Next, basically this is my Bible, and that's Watchmen, the greatest graphic novel ever, as deemed by many. This book made me see superheroes in a way that I've never looked at superheroes before. And I've always wanted to write a story that involved characters like these. I'm not saying that Orca's Eye is that, not saying it's not that, but Watchmen made me realize that, hey, superhero stories don't always have to be about bad guys versus the good guys, and that's it. There's way more, there's a lot more analytical study involved in this story. The downfalls of superheroes, what they go through, why people might not want to support them. All those things have never been touched in a superhero book before this one. So this opened the door to look at superhero stories in a completely different way, and really changed my point of view on storytelling. So thank you. My second favorite book of all time, American Psycho. I've never been more exhausted reading a story than this book right here. This is the book that made me see just how far you can go with one character. And the main character in Orca's Eye, Jeremiah Drake, I push him. I push his limits really, really far. And it'll make the reader sometimes be like, Jeremiah, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, that's all because of Patrick Bateman. So there's a lot of Patrick Bateman going on with Jeremiah Drake. So thank you, Brett Ellis, for being so freaking weird. Last but not least, Tale of Two Cities. I know what you're thinking. What? This is one of the most boring stories you could think of. But actually, no, it's not. Dickens is just very long-winded. But the story of family and sacrifice in this is so good. And if you haven't read A Tale of Two Cities, at least get the abridged version, because oh my gosh, it's so heart-wrenching of a story. And those themes of sacrifice and family, I really wanted to emulate in Orca's Eye. So thank you for that, Sydney Carton. So those are the biggest stories in literature that have inspired me, and video games being Metal Gear Solid. The next would be Breaking Bad, best TV show of all time. I would watch episodes of Breaking Bad while writing, just to see how dialogue is crafted, just to see how suspense is built in a television show, and how I can take that and twist it and put it into a book. So thank you, Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, for creating the best TV show of all time. Right now I'm in a very purgatory-esque kind of state, because I don't know what to do next. I'm thinking, and I'm doing some research about self-publishing versus regular publishing. I'm going to spend some time doing that, but definitely I'm going to make some hard copies of the book for those closest to me and for myself, just to have it, because that's freaking awesome to have it. But we'll see what I decide in the very near future. That's it. It's done. If you've watched all the way till this point, thank you. Again, thank you to everybody for being so supportive. I can't believe it's done. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Okay, that's it. Goodbye, and